Wrap it up because we've been out of here for like an hour and 30 minutes.
All right. Okay, let me say this. Action item number one: get rid of the old email. Get rid of them.
Okay.
Get it. Email in every community should be 35 and younger.
Okay.
And if you don't have that, your community's failed and it's about to die anyway. So
I was going to call for a moratorium on marriages until this podcast, until you watch this, full-fledged moratorium on marriages. Because you don't know what you're doing. It's like, if you don't know what you're doing, let's stop. I know everybody hot in the pants and whatever the issue is, we having conferences and stuff. Let's shut it down. All right. Assalamu alaikum. We're back. Another episode of the Bean Pie Chronicles. Today we're joined by one of our favorite guests. We had a good response for the last time he was on there talking at economics. Dr. Maynard, Dr. Riyaad Maynard. He has a degree, master's degree, or doctor's degree, in economics. And we love to have the brother on there because it's not very often that I don't really even know any other. Again, I'll keep saying this: Muslim, African American, Muslim economics. We like to deal with the soft sciences and social sciences. The brother right here is dealing with the brass, hardcore. 1+1 = 2, but in numbers and economics, and this is what we lack in our communities a lot of times. That type of information, that type of insight. So if your board doesn't have an African American brother on there that has a PhD in economics, you might want to rethink that. You know what I'm saying?
A doctor in science.
And a doctor of science. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So we brought the good doctor along today because we had a lot of conversations in the Black Muslim I would say social media's blogosphere about the brother Shadid Muhammad, one of the brothers, a prominent brother in the community. He was scheduled to have what he called like a marriage fair. With we're familiar with job fairs, and so you can sign up if you're looking to get married. Brothers and sisters can sign up to the event. And he had to cancel the event because of the overwhelming response by women. I believe, let's say 100 women signed up and maybe 2 men signed up. And so this caused him to have to cancel the event. And then from that situation, a number of follow-up conversations, ripple conversations happened throughout the African American Muslim online contingency. So, for myself, as I listen to the different conversations, over here at Bean Pie Chronicles, everything for us, we're very much interested in readjusting the landscape and the discussion around the discussion around culture and Islam. We believe that 99% of the issues in the African American Muslim community has to do with the false assumption or the false correlation and the misunderstanding between the role of religion and the role of culture. And marriage is also one of those things. Marriage is a very important aspect, a cultural aspect for any healthy society. And it's our belief that, you know, without really necessarily with the continued correlation or misunderstanding of the role of religion and the role of culture in the issue of marriage, we will continue to have these type of issues, heavy divorce rate, and in the Black community, we have a decrease in marriages. People are not finding it economically or feasible or viable, or people not even interested in getting married anymore. So what I thought to do was to reach out to the good doc and have a discussion around marriage from an economic standpoint, because as we all know, marriage is uh, made difficult or easy uh, when your economics is straight. And another conversation that I heard prior to this situation with Shadid was there was another conversation about, as we all know, in the African American Muslim community, we're always talking about polygyny or having multiple wives and these things, and it's never discussed from a cultural slash economic standpoint. So I wanted to reach out to the good doctor because, for me, that's where the discussion not necessarily ends, but it should start there. There has to be some clarity in relations to economics and marriage and the role that marriage plays in developing healthy cultural realities and healthy communities. So, with that being said, Doc, do you have any line of thought?
Well, first of all, how academic do you want to have this conversation, or is it a conversation, two brothers having a conversation, and then it just happens to be some people watching? So keep it very academic, or this is me and you having a conversation?
Well, I mean, I think that I would say there's a lot of that's interesting. Um, Wherever you felt like, however you feel more comfortable, because I believe that we would like to have some academics there for sure, right?
Right,
Because
right, right. Okay.
because people, I think that's why people like want to have this conversation in the terms of religion, because the religion does provide some guidelines and it provides some structure
Right.
for the conversation, right?
Okay.
And
Well, I didn't know how visceral that you wanted to make this conversation,
okay,
or how, the word that we like to use, how real,
right,
that you want to have this conversation, because as it relates to being Muslim, uh, this outside of Shahada, this is the most important thing that you can do. Marriage is the most important.
right,
And so that means that maintaining the integrity of a marriage is of the utmost importance outside of the belief in Allah.
right,
So if that's the case, with our community and the issues that we have that are very germane and distinct to our community, we have to have academic, but we got to have real conversations too. Like,
right.
I get tired of, I stopped watching a lot of Muslims give lectures and stuff because they don't speak to our experience, or they speak on such a highbrow level that it becomes almost fantasy. So that's why I asked the question in the way that I did, because I would love to, statistics, numbers, all that kind of stuff. That's what I do. But
Right.
I want to be able to have this conversation, like it's me and you offline having a conversation.
Well, let's do that. You know what? Because
and talking.
when the cameras come on, I tend to kind of like stiffen up and be a little bit more conservative, and I'm trying to get out of that. So, I welcome the opportunity to have.
I won't curse. I won't curse. Offline.
You want to curse, but
I
you won't.
curse.
All right, let's
I
do that.
curse.
We can do that.
But it's gonna be a very real conversation.
Okay, we can do that. I know
Okay.
that you have daughters, right? You have sons. I know you have sons.
Yeah,
The shorties, but I know you have daughters.
Yeah.
Of marrying age, right?
3 daughters. One of them is of marrying age, and the other 2 are right there. So
Right
they both.
So this
They're
is
16,
where you can't get realer than that, right? You can't get realer than I have daughters that are of marrying age, and the brothers or the type of caliber brothers that come up to you and are going to approach you. I have a daughter myself. She's a young girl. She's 14. Some people might think that's marrying age, but I don't believe that. But
Nah,
you know what I'm saying? But
nah.
but she's right at the door, like you said, right? No. So
Yeah,
I know for me, I have a certain standard, outside of Islam. Let's put Islam over here, like Malcolm said, put it in your back pocket
yeah.
for a second. In America, I have a standard, right? And my
Right.
issue is that when we're talking about Islam and Muslims, and we're talking about African American Muslims, we're talking about marriage. A lot of times, like you said, the people that talk about it coming from like this Quran and Sunnah, what the companions did, and that's fine and dandy, but it becomes I'm hesitant to say academic because I know that's what we're calling it, but it's not. But what it comes down to is that it's not real. You know what I'm saying? And because we're dealing with these fantasies, not that it didn't happen, but we're not dealing with them in the context, the cultural context,
Right.
of who those people were, who the prophet and his companions were outside of Islam, the context of their culture. And so if we don't take that into consideration, then we're missing a half the story, you know.
More than that.
Right. More than that. So when it comes to trying to apply those principles and those concepts to our lives without taking into consideration the difference between how we operate as a people and how they operate as a people aside from Islam, we get a lot of the problems that, and it becomes just like this purely academic, you know, gibberish to me. So yeah, when you say let's have a real story, I want to say a real story as a black man with black children. Culturally, what are we doing here?
Right. So the first premise that we have to establish in having this conversation is the premise or the understanding that Islam is meant to be practiced colloquially. So familiar with the context of the area,
Right.
the understanding of the people,
Right.
the understanding of their language.
Right.
For instance, if you go to Siberia, I'm quite sure they have 100 different words for cold.
Right.
But maybe in Saudi, it might only be one or two words for cold.
Right.
Whereas, so that understanding of different degrees of cold is very colloquial.
Right.
So the way that they view the world is based on that.
Right.
So for us here in America, our biggest mistake is that we practice or we're taught Islam from a colloquial context that's not germane to us. It's
Right.
not us. It's not our experience. It's not how we understand the world.
Right.
It's not how we see the world. We have very much a group understanding of the world, being descendants of slaves in this
Right.
country. So even though there may be slight variations and slight differences, overall, we have a pretty good understanding. Now, one of the things we always argue about is up north rap music and down south rap music.
Right.
But the thing is we're debating over rap.
Right.
So is it really a difference?
Right.
Are we really not having an understanding? It's not that we're not having an understanding, it's that we're having a disagreement about something that we both understand.
Right.
And we both love, and we know the nuances
Right.
of hip hop because that's very germane. It's very much us. It's very much our culture.
Right.
So anyone else that tries to have that conversation, they're having that conversation as an outsider.
Yeah, it's like my son said, I'm online arguing with this guy. He's from Mexico, and he telling me that Eminem is the best rapper. What? Like, well, first of all, he's outside of his culture. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna call him and tell him Celine Dion is the best mariachi band singer. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He out of his lane.
Right. He out of, but that's how we practice Islam.
Right.
We allow other people to come tell us we need to practice in a colloquial manner that's germane to Pakistan, that's germane to Saudi, that's germane to Africa, that's germane to Jordan and Syria. And then when we look at it, we look and we say Yemen don't practice Islam like they do in Saudi.
Right.
Saudi don't practice Islam like they do in Iran. Iran don't practice Islam like they do in Turkey.
Right.
But we take this baggage on, and so the result is that we have a terrible relationship with marriage, which is the most important thing outside of your shahada that you can do as a Muslim.
Right.
Is to marry. That's the most important thing. So from that context, we have to establish that our form of marriage, what's needed for us to have a successful marriage, is different
Right.
in ways. Some of them very subtle, and some of them are vastly different. But it's a different understanding, and it's a different remedy.
Right.
So when we have these conversations about around marriage, and one of the conversations that you were telling me was about a brother saying that, or asking the question. I'm not sure whether he was saying it's okay or whether he was begging the question about is $40,000 a year enough to, or is $80,000 a year enough to have two families? No, $40,000. So first, let me just say that hell no. Hell no. Let me just establish that right now. You have to be not just a fool, and this is where the conversation gets real. You just chasing vagina. That's all you.
That's tough.
You're just vagina chasing, but the colloquial part that comes in when it comes to that, don't nobody have game like black American brothers. We got game.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So whether we take shahada or not, we just trying to maneuver within our own minds on how I can get some more sex, how I can get some more vagina. So I'm gonna run game on the sister. So it go from, hey, you beautiful, all that, to sister, where this is Islam.
Right.
It's just same game, just it's different language. So first we have to understand that. And where did all this come from? So this comes from, and some of these people in some of these backgrounds, I'm not going to name anyone specifically, but these are people that I love. These are people that taught me Islam. But they did it from a perspective of they were trying to remove the Americanism from them, but they kept all the side hustle, all the hood stuff, because they were gangsters. Right. They were a lot of the leadership, and they came from counterculture revolutions within America. They didn't accept that they were American. And even though you hear these quotes, it's as American as apple pie. But when they accepted Islam, they totally took on these other colloquial cultures from different understandings and perspectives. And so we go from a very oppressive white culture right into a very oppressive Muslim culture. Right. And a Muslim understanding of things. So we stay confused. So we say it's okay to poverty. It's okay to get a sister and beat her down with Islam. Right. And get her to accept $40,000 a year with two wives. Now, if it's $40,000 a year, you have one family, you hustling, you trying to make it, you trying to grow. I'm not talking about that. Right. But once you expand out, and now you're trying to take on two families. Right. Any woman that falls for that is, I would say, do it on if you are a compliment away from committing zina, then that's something that you need to do. Right. And that's another part of what we don't do. In America, we have to respect our women like they're American women. We can't respect our women like they grew up in some Saudi closed-off culture. Right. Our women grow up looking at the fine dudes shooting basketball with the white beat on. Right. You know what I'm saying? So she's seeing the same type of stuff when we walk outside and a chick is outside and nothing, and she doing the busted challenge in the middle of the street, and we gotta be like, oh, my sister's doing the same thing. Right. It's some fine brother walking down the street right now, and she got to go out and view. So we have to have that understanding. So, like I said, if a sister is a compliment away from committing zina, man, marry that brother making $35,000, $40,000 a year. Save yourself. Right. Okay. And if that means being a second wife, then do it. Right. Okay. So I put that out.
But you know what? I agree with everything you're saying 1,000%. You know, and unfortunately, that is a segment of our community. We do have that segment of our community that, like you said, you're one compliment away from committing zina, and you know that's where I always like to talk about class. You know, class is a part of our culture, both in America and in Islam, but it's not discussed at all. You know, and I get a little irritated when we talk about marriage in such a low way, like
Yeah.
like as a deterrent to zina, or as a
Mm.
deterrent to, like for a brother to say $40,000 or $80,000, 2 wives. Like it's almost like he's buying. You're buying. I got $80,000. Can I buy 2 cars? Or like we're just talking about, I guess,
Yeah.
economics from an economic
Right.
standpoint, totally devoid of all of the other challenges that would come with that. You know what I'm saying? And
Right. So
so,
I promise you that we're gonna get into the number.
right, right, right,
I just want to set up and so in me saying that, I know that that's an outlier. That's a caveat.
right,
But it's a very important caveat because most Muslim sisters in America, they didn't grow up Muslim.
right,
You know what I'm saying? That's something we got to. So they weren't raised under the banner of Islam. Allah brought them to it, but prior to that, they was having sex. She belongs to the streets. They was drinking. They was smoking weed. They were doing all this stuff.
right,
And when you look at the history of Islam, how long did how long did Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam receive revelation before the only person that ever perfected it before the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam perfected it over 23 years.
right,
Muslims drank alcohol and were getting drunk 13 years before
right.
it was. So the thing that I'm saying is, and they were living with the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We are far removed from that, and sisters grow up in a very sexualized manner here.
Right.
From the clothing to the TV shows and not only that, it's a constant breaking down of respect for a black male. So within that context, you have to allow mercy for the sister.
Right.
That's a compliment away from committing zina.
Okay.
That's not where we want to be.
That. Right.
That's definitely not where we want to be.
Right.
But we have to make room for that.
That's a part of understanding where we are in America. This is our culture. This is the reality of it.
That's the colloquial of Islam that we have to practice. So if there's a good brother out there that just so happens to be making $80,000 a year, not any brother, but if there's a good brother out there that's making $80,000 a year, and he's like, okay, I'll take that responsibility on, then it's not the best thing, but it's best for her, and then they can probably grow together.
Right.
But outside of that caveat, and it may be one or two other one-offs, but that's still outlier stuff.
Right.
Outside of that, when you're talking about marriage for black people in America, you cannot remove economics from your decision making. So I'm not even going to talk about polygyny right now. Let's just talk about a single household, just a monogamous relationship, a monogamous marriage, man and woman come together and you get married and then you start having kids. Like I did some research. I'm not going to go through all the research, but there's some key things that I want to talk about. So right now, so let me set up one more thing. Black Muslim sisters, even though it seems as though, because we like to push the best up front, it seems as though Black Muslim women are highly educated, but they're not. There's only one group, there's only one demographic that's less educated, Black Muslim women, and that's Native American within America. So Black Muslim women overall, as a group, now Muslim women, once you start including Asians and all that, we're talking about African American, descendant of slave, Black Muslim women, are undereducated.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of it has nothing to do with intelligence.
Right.
What it mainly has to do with is the upbringing prior to Islam or the misguided upbringing from within Islam. Right. So when you start looking at the average, here's a few statistics. These came from economic policy. The average family, liquid, they can pull $20,000. That's liquid. That's credit cards. That's cash. That's savings. That's cashing out your stocks and bonds. Only $20,000.
Right.
That's what the average black family can pull.
Huh?
The average net worth of a black family is $95,000.
Boy, ain't no way,
That's
boy.
average. But we got some billionaires.
Right.
The median net worth is only $11,000. The average income for a household is $45,000 for a black household. So I'm sorry. Hey, and I didn't give my warning. You know, 2 babies, teenagers in the house. If it gets noisy, we just got to work through it.
Right. No, we got you.
But so when you look at those statistics, I want to go over a few more things. $13,000 is the average cost per child per year. That's coming from the USDA.gov. $13,000 per year is the average cost per child in America. Of course, my thing is, right now somebody's saying, "Oh, it don't cost me that much."
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
That's the problem. Is you're shortchanging the children.
Right.
So, expect to spend $233,000 per child to raise them from 0 to 17 in the United States. This is the average.
Okay.
Housing and food make up 47%. So we're not talking about spoiled kids or nothing. 47% of that $13,000 per year. It was actually like $12,970 something. $13,000, but 47% of that. So half of that is housing and food.
Right. Basics.
Expenses increase $900 per year between 15 and 17. They're in activities. They drive the car. You got to give them gas. They want to go hang out with their friends. All that kind of,
right.
Whatever. They may go to a function. If you a strict Salafi type Muslim, that everything is haram, you may want to take them to a Salafi conference or something. But
right.
Either way, it's costing that. Plus, if it's a female, it's going to be a little bit more because now, by this time she's probably has a menstrual cycle. She needs other feminine products and that kind of thing. If it's a boy, it can even get more expensive because they're playing sports. They're playing football, but
Right.
So $900 more per year is the average. The middle income in the United States, like what is considered middle income, is $59,200 to $107,000.
Okay.
So this is middle income. These are people that if they miss a check, they may be in some trouble. Now they may have good credit and they may be able to put some stuff off on credit cards and catch up later. But if they miss a check, they're in trouble. So middle income is $59,200 to $107,000. What did I say the average black average black income is? 45,000. 45,000. So off top,
middle class.
That's 50. Not middle class. This is two earners. This is the average.
Two earners.
This is the average. $45,000 a year is the average black household income. So this is including two earners.
Okay.
All right. So it's single family, but it's also including two earners.
Okay.
So we were having that question about the $40,000. So at $40,000, that's $19,000 below what is considered middle income.
Right.
So then you go take it a step further. This is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So you can go to BLS.gov. 22% of black people in the United States make less than or equal to $12,500 per year. 37% make less than or equal to $37,459 per year. So that means 53% or 55%?
Right.
22 plus 37? So, no, I'm sorry. That's not 55%. I can't count. That's 59%. So 59% of Black America makes $37,459 per year household income.
Wow.
So my question is, when you pose the question about being able to take care of two households off $40,000 a year, this is why I call it poverty.
Right.
This is no. So if 59% of households are making less than $37,000 a year, now you feel like you're doing somebody a favor because you're offering $40,000.
Right.
Not considering
It takes 60,000 to be
how
minimum income.
78. It takes 80,000 to take care of one family. Because once it goes even further. It goes even further. Because when you take that 40,000 and you only bring home 83% of that because you got to pay taxes, the lowest tax rate you're gonna have is 17%. Even if you claim 8 or 9, you're still paying 17% of taxes. That's not going away. Sometimes you might get 14%, but we're gonna say 17%. So you're bringing home 83% of $40,000, which is $33,200, right?
Right.
So let me tell you what the average Black, and this is specifically for Black people. This isn't white people. This is the average Black household expenses. You have 10.2% goes to insurance and pensions, $3,600 per year. Food, 16.1%, $5,800 per year. Housing, 37.4% of your income, or $13,529 per year. Apparel, clothes, 2.8%. I think this is low, but but that's what the statistics say. So per family, they spend $1,000 per year on clothes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Transportation. Yeah, hey,
I don't
want to. I think that's way low, but that's what it said there.
Right.
I'm gonna leave.
Right.
Transportation, 16.4%, or $5,945 per year. That's gas. That's car notes.
Right.
That's car insurance. All that. Healthcare, 5%, $1,800. So that's co-pays and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Entertainment, 3.8%, or $1,362 per year. I think that's low. I think that's very low, but I'm gonna leave it. Education, 1.4%. That's little fees and stuff, books, back to school, papers, all that kind of stuff. Right. And cash contribution, 3.7%, or $1,340 per month. I tried to get an exact, with that last $1,340 cash contribution, and that includes everything from you had to lend somebody some money, like your daughter's on the cheerleading squad and she's taking the trip, and you got to put $200 up for her to take the trip. It's just all those cash contributions. Now, we know that 83% of $40,000 is $33,200.
Right.
So that's all you're bringing home.
Right.
That's all you're bringing home. Those expenses that I just said, and I didn't include everything.
Right.
Because there was some stuff that was just like 500, 600, 700.
Right.
It was less than 1,000, but it was like 10 other things. So my thing is, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to put in there. Because I can prove my point with this.
Right.
So 83% of $40,000 is $33,200. That stuff that I just told you to add up is $34,806.
Right.
So you're already $1,676 in debt, living below the poverty line.
Wow.
Or living less than middle class.
Right.
So my thing is if you're a man and you trying to hustle and a woman falls for it, I mean that's something that I feel. I'm no Sheikh, I'm no Mufti, I'm no imam, right. And I make myself edgy enough that people don't ask me to right. to play that role either, because I can't. I like dealing with real stuff.
Right.
So with that being said, what you're telling people is that not only are you trying to figure out how to get $1,600 per year, if you break that down over the course of 12 months, you're $120, $130 every month that you're going in debt. That what's falling short. And to take it even a step further is just saying that I care about getting some extra vagina more than I care about leaving something for my kids. More than I care about trying to help my kids when they have kids. Can I make sure that they have a bassinet? Can I make sure they have a stroller? Can I give my kids a down payment to own a car? Can I buy a car for kids? You're saying none of that matters. That's what you're saying.
So this is selfish behavior, to say the least.
Extremely selfish. It's pimping. And so when you grow up, part of what has happened within the Black community is that our children have grown up, because we're 3-4 generations in now, and we see the same things happen. So the first generation, it was a social experiment. Okay, so can we do this? Can we separate? Can we create these Muslim enclaves, and can we protect our children and keep out the American? It failed.
Right.
It failed. So the brunt of that failure is falling on Muslim women, because you know what Muslim men can do? They can marry non-Muslim women.
Right.
So Muslim women are left in this dilemma that 100 of them show up because they want to find and marry a Muslim man, but only 2 Muslim men show up, because they can choose from, oh, I can't keep all my responsibility on this side, but you know what? I can go get this chick that ain't even Muslim. And, sidebar, ain't making a stingent. That's nasty.
Here we go with that.
That's nasty. But they'll choose that.
But again, that to me again, and I thank you for all of that. That was wonderful, and that was very that's the information that I kind of like. I didn't know those numbers, but just as a man who's trying to raise children with the family, I know what it feels like to do that. And so those numbers, 80,000, I'm like 200. I'm like, no, that don't feel right, because I know what it's like to have one family and have more money than that, and still be like trying to make things happen. So those numbers gave you super duper clarity. But what I feel is that we're missing the purpose of marriage. That's what
right.
that
right.
to me is where the culture comes in. Because if you're ready to get married because of some extra vagina, like if that's what that is, the first wife, or you say the first wife, if that's what that is, if that's what it amounts to, there's a problem with that from the jump. It's a problem with that thinking from the jump.
That's why we have failed families and failed marriages. Because sons don't grow up respecting the responsibility that they have to have.
Right.
They don't grow up respecting that responsibility, so they feel like, oh, let me go get this $35,000, $40,000 a year job. Yeah, you go to work. It may be hard work, but you know what? Because you live in a society, and you grew up in a society that's capitalistic, and because you didn't educate yourself in a way that will bring you high income so that you can have multiple wives, so that you can leave multiple inheritance for multiple children. Because you didn't do that, don't try to make up for it on the pimping side, because you go to work every day. So what? That's what you're supposed to do. As a man, you're supposed to get your ass up, go to work, make some money, make as much money as you can, and bring it home in order to make your family's life more easier.
So what about the person that says, your brother's here talking about we Muslims, brother, and we talking about Islam, and a good brother is a brother that knows his salats. He's strong on his deen. You know what I'm saying? He's waking up for Fajr, and the system won't allow him to excel, to get this economic stability. This is us against the white man, or whatever, the Kafirs. And the brothers, the good brothers it's impossible for a good brother to even make that type of money. So how would you address that?
First of all, I say that's BS. Then I would say, so let me say this. I'm for polygyny. I think more people need to practice polygyny, but they need to practice it correctly. And so that starts with teaching your son that if you are going to not go to college and you're going to get some type of certification or some type of trade, do that in a high earning area. So you look at the Asian community, and they invest in their children. They become doctors, they become lawyers, they become tech geeks and project managers. So they invest in their children to have high incomes, right? We invest in our kids to become social workers, teachers, to hustle water on the corner. We don't tell them start a water company. We don't afford them that. And then when they turn 18, we're ready to kick them out. You 18, I did my job, you grown, go do your thing. We don't try to set them up for success. And so they literally repeat the cycle. So we have generational curses because we're Black and descendants of slaves, and now we have generational curses because we're Black Muslims in America, and it's compounded. And the brunt of that. Now, mind you, I want to say this though: Muslim sisters wilding out, but the brunt of that is being felt by the Muslims because they literally have to decide whether or not they're practicing Islam correctly. Because a lot of Muslim sisters now are starting to look at non-Muslim men. And so when sisters come to me and they're like, man, I've been looking for a Muslim man for the last year or two, I'll be like, okay, well, the brother you think is fine, tell him he can have it. But he got to come to the masjid. He got to learn Islam. He got to practice for 6, 7, 8, 9 months. It's not the same thing the brothers do. Why don't sisters do that? So we get real sensitive when we're talking about our women, but our sons, we let them go wild. Right. We turn a blind eye to them. I mean, they literally out here having sex with Catholics. Women that don't make extensions. That's dirty. That's. But then when it's like, sister, well, go find a man and tell him, teach him Islam. Tell him to go by the masjid. Tell him to go talk to your wali. Tell him what it is. I know many successful marriages that have started, flipped. The sister was Muslim, the brother wasn't, but you do it in a constructive manner. But as far as the economics of it goes, is if you're going into a marriage, you're going to get the benefit of what you're going for. So the benefit that we've seen is brothers trying to take advantage of poor women who are just looking for a way out, who are looking for help, especially once women start having children. Right. They get pimped the most. I mean, that's just low-hanging fruit right there. I mean, I'm saying this so the sisters that watch this, they get a little gumption about them. Say no. Just say no. I mean, it's easy for me to walk through a crowd and catch a sister's eye, and then a month later, if I want to spit game at her, she ready to move the kids and everybody in, off $40,000 a year. Right. So with that, but that lets you know how far we've fallen. And so if we don't hold each other accountable from the perspective of an economic standpoint, because we don't live in a country that we can go chop some trees down and build a house. We don't live in a country to where there's an Islamic understanding with banking and finance and investing and all that kind of stuff. So we have to maneuver in a way that we try to stay away from stuff, but some stuff just smacks you in the face, and all you can do is just try to make it better in the future. But in America, it's not going to be better unless there's an economic component to it. And so we've ignored that economic component. I'll give you a perfect example, and I know we're kind of going sideways, but I always hear Muslims, especially Muslims that bought their house off of, they were able to get some type of Islam. Alhamdulillah. I'm not knocking that, but have you ever tried to deal with those Islamic people? No, like, it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to get along, and especially if you're not in the upper echelon or the upper educated, you're not going to get a loan. But what's funny to me is once you start peeling back the layers, right? Before they got the degree, before they became a doctor, before they became a master, you start talking to them, you start peeling it back, and it's like, oh, so you played football in college? So you had a scholarship? Nah, I had to take student loans. Oh, okay. So now you want to talk about what Muslims can't do to get a house because you were able to get some Islamic finances, but you forgot about the 50, 60, 70, 80, 90,000, $100,000 worth of student loans you took in order to put yourself in that position. So what you're doing is you're saying that a Muslim that may not have gone down the path that you went down can't get a mortgage on a home to make sure that he has a stable situation for his family, that he can build up equity in a country that's based on riba. So my understanding of Islam is if you don't have a choice, you can eat pork.
Right.
That's my understanding.
That's correct.
So if you're in America and you don't have the economic wherewithal to go outside of the country, and I haven't seen one African country that sent a flotilla over here to pick their people up.
Right.
I ain't seen not one ship come from Africa to be like, hey, come back, we're gonna give you land, job, stipend, all that kind of stuff. I haven't seen one African country.
Right.
So let's stop the nonsense. So you have to have an economic economic fortitude in order to even do that, to make hijrah, especially if you have a family. So let's eliminate that foolishness. We here in America, we stuck. So stop thinking with your penis right now, and we have to think generationally. So the decisions we make now will benefit 3-4 generations from now, so that they don't have to take breathing, so that they have a true Islamic finance, whether they are a barber or whether they are a doctor, they can buy a home based off of their income without having to use riba. But until then, you fighting the war, right? So if the basis of America, the religion of America isn't Christianity, the religion of America is capitalism. That's the religion.
Right.
So if capitalism is the religion of America, that's the faith. If that's the case, then guess what Tawheed is? The right side of that ledger sheet, profits. That's Tawheed. That's the oneness of capitalism, is profits. How do I generate revenue? If that's the case, then what is the devil? What is Satan? Or what is disbelief? Disbelief is all debt. Being broke, not adding anything to the economy. Or all you're doing is just subsisting. You're just living. That's what Muslims have been. And that's why Black Muslims don't have nothing, because we're not practicing Islam from a colloquial standpoint. Now, I'm quite sure there's going to be a bunch of people on here, stop with all that. I don't care. That's why I was like, how real do you want to have this conversation? Well, what you're saying is so let me just say this, and then I'll sit back for a minute. What they're saying is that we should live in the manner that we've done that's extremely successful, that's unsuccessful when it comes to marriage. 77%, if not higher, of Black Muslim marriages end in divorce. So let me go back and reference the beginning of the conversation. The beginning of the conversation is outside of Tawheed. Actually, there's 2 rules before marriage. Even greater than Tawheed is what? The number 1 rule to Islam isn't Tawheed. The number 1 rule to Islam is there's no compulsion in religion. You can't force nobody to be Muslim. Right. I don't care how much you love them. I don't care how much you hate them. You can't force them to be Muslim.
Right.
That's the number 1 rule to Islam. Right. Number 2 rule to Islam, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. That's the number 2 rule.
Right.
Number 3, marriage is happy then. Right. So when it comes to importance, those are the things that will place the most important. Right. You can't. So if marriage is that important, if maintaining the sanctity of marriage, having a good marriage, raising a family, if it's that important, why are we so frivolous?
Right. So
why?
As African Americans, Muslims, a lot of the conversation we're having is framed in the context of the African American Muslim. But for all intents and purposes, there is no difference between the African American Muslim community and the general African American community here in America.
No.
We have the same status and the same statistics. Now for me, when we talk about the condition.
No. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Keep your thought. Our statistics are worse.
Okay.
Black Muslim statistics are actually worse. So we're at the bottom half of those statistics is Black American Muslims. Right. So all the stuff that I named you, we're on the left side of that. We ain't on the right side.
Now, how would you explain that phenomenon? Because I would say that if we want to Islam, like you said earlier, for African Americans, it was sort of there was a political lens through which you can understand African Americans accepting Islam, and it was sort of a rejection of everything white, white man religion, white man's, system. There was some
Right.
aspect of that, and in
Right.
rejecting the white man's system, you also reject his capitalism, his economics,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, if we're going to
Okay.
reject the white man's economics, reject the white man's system, then that leaves us sort of in a situation where we have to sort of create our own systems, our own economics, and having not done that, then we're now like we're just outside. You're just
Okay.
outside of the current system. Then you have the Reba issue. So it's like if you're saying that the Reba is a centerpiece of Western economics, then
Mm-hmm.
there's also now that religious component stops us from even engaging in it. Uh, another is so is besides the rejection of all things the white man, all things West. Now there's the also the religious component of rejecting Reba. So it seems like we're outside and we're locked outside.
Okay. So let's do this. So the reason why it's important, or the reason why I went down the study of a doctorate of science and not a PhD, is because I believe in the scientific method. So let's just look at our history as Black Muslims in America, and then the scientific method is that you look at a set of data, right? And then you compare, you contrast, you get information, you glean information from that data. And then before you come up with a conclusion, set up a blind study, a double blind study that people don't know what's going on, something different, see if you can repeat or see if you can come to the same conclusion from the first set of data, correct? So let's look at the double blind study. So we're going to look at foreigners coming over, and there's other reasons, there's other things that you can say they leg up, no taxes and that kind of thing. But let's just look at the two data points.
Okay.
So we have a 60-year history now, if not more, of Muslims that follow Quran and Sunnah in the country. So we're going on and we're going on the fourth generation of Muslims in this country. So they took that route, like you said. The data points and the statistics and the information is based off of them being counterculture and making their decisions. Okay? We're going to do it this way. We're going to be counterculture. We're going to establish communities. We're going to build schools. We're going to build hospitals, own financial systems, whether that be from a banking,
At credit union.
not a bank, credit union. Right. So whether that's credit unions, all that type of stuff, we're going to do it. They had all these great lofty ideas, right? Where is it? What's the results? What happened? I don't see all the results from that have been nothing but destruction, smaller communities, barely paying bills at masjids. Every week, Juma is just there as a fundraising situation just to pay the bills,
Right.
just so we can come back to Juma next week. That's almost every single, maybe one or two Black Muslim communities outside or don't function in that capacity. Every other one of them across the United States.
Right.
Every other one of them functions in that capacity of life support, based off of this data and these statistics and the information that we have. Now, what happened to the families? Divorce, incest, crazy situations,
Right.
kids leaving Islam. You know how many Muslim sisters or how many apostates I meet that are Muslim sisters because Muslim men tried to treat them like they were being raised in silence. Their fathers tried to treat them as if they should have no Americanized American influence or like it shouldn't matter to them.
Right.
So when you do that, you devalue that person because being American and the things that you know and understand, that's who you are. So you're devaluing women for again. So they hold no value, which is why later they fall for the bullshit.
Right.
They fall for the nonsense.
Right.
So that's the data that we have from the Black community.
Right.
4 generations of data.
Right.
No, nothing successful.
Right.
Just terrible.
Now,
people are leaving Islam.
Now, when you say nothing
now,
successful, there's going to be pushback because there are individuals.
Exactly.
Yourself. You're an example. There's individuals that have some degree of success, but we're talking about from a collective standpoint.
I'm saying from a standpoint that marriage is healthy and supported. So what are some of the things, and I should have defined some of the things that you need in order for family or marriage and family to be supported and successful. You need hospitals, you need schools, you need teachers, you need financial instruments and institutions. You need to be able to go get an Islamic mortgage. You be able to go finance a car. You need insurance. If a kid breaks his leg, how you gonna have
the family is the centerpiece to the whole thing. So from the family comes everything else. Thing.
You're doing everything to support the family. So we have no family support or structure. And a caveat to that is even if you have insurance, the insurance that you're paying into an insurance company is receiving and collecting interest. You cannot remove yourself from what people try to say that, oh, I'm not touching that. So you'll play with interest all the way around.
So if you don't create the systems that cover all those bases from an economic standpoint, then at some point you're going to have to lean on this same system that is based on interest. So if you can't create an interest-free system, then you have to deal with the devil one way or the other at some point.
So, but you are dealing with it either way.
Right.
You're dealing with it. Right. If you have a 401k right now, most Muslims don't even know what their 401k or their retirement. They just pay into some system. Right. They don't know that half of it is liquor, prisons, court. Things that have shown growth, steady growth over a historical perspective.
Right.
So you're dealing with it, and ignorance doesn't absolve you because you don't want to go look and see that you invested in VSOP.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't want to go look and see that you invested in Hennessy, you invested in Dean. Right. So we play dumb, plausible deniability. We pulled a white people card when it comes to that. Oh, racism exists? I never, so that's how we are as Muslims. We love the plausible deniability. Nah, I didn't get a mortgage on my house. I believe in interest. Oh, really? Okay, well, where do you put your money? If you have a bank account with a non-Muslim entity, which is hard to get a bank account with a Muslim company anyway, but if you got a bank account, you're getting interest. Right. Unless your bank account is zero, and then that's a whole nother problem. So I say all that to say, when you look at the other data points, so we have Jews and we have foreign Muslims that come to the country. And what do? They push their kids to higher earning positions. They force it. You don't get to go be an artist. You can do that on your own. You're going to medical school. You're going to be a computer scientist. You're going to be an engineer. We don't do that with our kids. So that community, when you look at the 60 years that they've been over here and their 4 generations, they've been able to build wealth because they use those instruments to put themselves in a position. Muslims came over here selling porn and alcohol because they were leaving war-torn countries and they wanted opportunities for their kids to be able to have something. So you have Muslim communities with credit unions. You have Muslim communities with hospitals and Shiva clinics and all that kind of stuff. So you have that now from the foreign Muslims. Right. When you look at the Jews, they have their own banking. They established what they needed. You right up there in New York, so you know blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks. Right. Several neighborhoods up there. So it's not that you go seek it. It's that you really don't have no choice. So if I'm already in it by default, then why wouldn't I use this to pull myself into a situation? I'm not saying go, oh man, let me go get this 20% loan because I want to open up a hot dog stand. I'm not saying that. The thing that I'm saying is what has proven to build success and build wealth in the country. One thing is buying a home. Despite what Brett Cordone or whatever says, buying a home is a way that even if you don't necessarily get to pull out uh,
Equity.
the money from it, equity, it's an asset that you're leaving for your family. It's something that can generate revenue and income once you're gone.
Right.
That's the number one income, net worth, revenue generator within the United States when it comes to inheritance is a home. Now, I have a great aunt that's out in California. She's in LA. She bought her home. She has a 3-bedroom, two bath home. When she bought her home, she said she bought her home. I think she said she paid $60,000 for it. Huh? In the late '60s or early '70s. She was a teacher out in California for a year. Her home just appraised for $750,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I'm sorry. That was the tax assessment on the home. So the home was probably over $1 million if it actually. So if she put that home on the market, so over the course of 70, so let's say that she bought it. I'm 48. I was born in 72. So let's say she bought it in 72, right? Over the course of 48 years, that home that was paid off, I don't know how long ago, that home will bring $1 million into the family. Or put it on Airbnb, VRBO, and it's an income generator.
Right.
It'll generate $5, $6, $7,000 a month in income.
Right.
So if that's the case, now when she passes on, I don't know what she's doing with it, but I'm just saying, if you're removing yourself from
Right.
for 4 generations, if you're removing yourself from that, that's an influx of cash that can help you start another donut shop.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's an influx of cash that can start a clinic.
Right.
And make sure that the doctor's there for at least 5 years because they got enough income to pay that doctor for 5 years. So now the Muslims have a clinic. Muslim sisters can go somewhere, don't have to undress in front of non-Muslims and all that kind of stuff. So these are the things that I'm saying. We can't remove America from being Muslim in America. You cannot do it.
Right.
You can't remove capitalism. And even if you try to pretend like you're not, you're still doing it. A payroll check, they pay you based off of interest.
Right.
You can't remove it. So to play games with ourselves, to mentally masturbate the way that Muslims do is ridiculous because we have nothing to show for it. And it's worse when you see an individual bragging about what they did. We see an individual Muslim bragging about what they did, knowing the hoops they had to jump through and how they're 1% and 1% and 1% and 1% and 1%.
Right.
Like they're the one out of 1 million that applied. They're the one that was able to. So now they brag about it. Something,
Well,
normal.
I wouldn't necessarily say. I don't want to accuse anybody. I wasn't suggesting that anybody was so like bragging. What I was suggesting is that we don't. You would know, and I know some Muslims that do well. There are some Muslims that are professionals. There are Muslims that are African American Muslims that are, because of Islam has benefited some of us to give us some structure, to keep us away from drugs or keep us out of alcohol and keep us out of trouble. And we have, crossed the T's and dot Nevada. So there are some individuals like that. But it's just like sort of there's a bell curve and the percentage of the African American Muslims that have ascended or been able to actualize themselves and become quote unquote successful in this society is marginal. And so for those
Less than
individuals,
marginal.
they are going to push back. But for the most part, I think this, like you were talking about the numbers, and that's why the numbers is important. What
Right.
I'm saying is that, and what we're saying is that culturally. So, in my opinion, your culture is going to dictate your value system, your expectations, your behaviors. So when you talked about the foreigners, when they come to America, they force their children into those high earning education and incomes. While that becomes cultural. That becomes a cultural norm. So we expect the Asians and the Indians to be into computer science, whereas the African Americans, we can be into rap and basketball and sports and things that are pie in the sky kind of not hard how hard science is, and the outcomes are not, typically just based on getting this degree and now getting these employed in these high jobs. This is an aspect of culture. And so if we haven't accepted our identity as Americans or operating within the American system, then we are not even analyzing the system to make those type of assessments. So as African Americans, if we
Right.
said we want to utilize this system in order to achieve economic stability for our families, then culturally we would, from the pulpits, from the membars, from the masjids, from the leaders of the community, they will be pushing an education paradigm as opposed to what we're pushing. Like, I want my kid to be a sheikh, or I want my kid to be a scholar, or I want my kid to memorize, the Quran. These types of educational goals, this is acceptable, and this is what we culturally have been pushing. You don't really hear that in the African American Black Muslim community, that the parents are bragging, or that the masjid is putting together funds to help create scholarships for education. We're sending kids to Africa to learn to be hafiz and stuff like that. So as a culture,
But
we're making certain type of choices, and American economics is not part of those choices.
right, and the reason is because we went from one master, one oppressor to the next,
Right.
and then the first generations of people that started pulling away, they took on that same doc. You can control people better if they're broke and they're dependent on you for their knowledge. So until we start to accept this about our leaders, don't mean we love them less. It doesn't mean we won't support them. It means that we need to call them to the carpet. We're scared to call. You ain't got to call somebody by name. We can talk about it, and we all know somebody like that. Like, I'm very disappointed. The more mature, the more you learn, the more you grow in Islam, the longer you're Muslim, especially in America, you can be very disappointed in your leadership, and you can hold them accountable, but be respectful. But they was wrong. They were dead wrong. And they wasted 60 years of our life to the point now that you have daughters and you scared to even talk to a Muslim dude about your daughter.
Right.
And so this is the reality. This is what they set in place, and this is the result of it. So you have to be a fool or lazy or a pimp to want it to stay the same. So once we start looking at our leadership, how many wives did they have? How many of their kids are screwed up? Their kids be the most screwed up. You can't be a martyr and then expect your kids to be normal. You can't be involved in the masjid all the time and expect your kids to be normal. Now take your ass home. Take care of your kids. Man, once we grow, then we can have full-time emails. We can have full-time problems and stuff. But right now, we're fighting a war to establish what the Jews have. We're fighting a war to establish what the foreign Muslims that came over here had. And so we're not using the same tools. They came over and used the tools. The Muslims came over here, they used student loans. They sent the kids because they went to school on student loans, the government money. They used the free taxes. They used student loans to send the second generation of kids back in the 70s. And then by the time they went and sent them to medical school and stuff, based off of selling porn and alcohol in the hood, based off of them getting student loans and stuff and overextending their visas, they use all these tools, and now they have a community. They have a base, they have wealth, they deal with each other, and now they have something they can kind of create enclaves for themselves. We don't do that. And the reason we don't do it is because we pimping. The leadership can't hold control if you got money and you educated. So the old leadership, they don't want to let go. A Muslim, an imam shouldn't be an imam in no more than 3, 4, maybe at the most 5 years. At that point, you should have trained somebody with a new vision, and you become a imam emeritus.
Right.
But move around, get out the way. we have these old emails from the 70s still being a major influence for us in social media TikTok generation. Why? Get your old ass out the way.
Mm-hmm.
Move. You need to move. I'm too old to be somebody's email now. I can be somebody that the young brothers come talk to and holler and get some advice from. And I'm too old. I don't understand TikTok. I hate TikTok. But every time I turn, but that's what they do.
Yeah, you're right about that. That's why I have a hard time doing these podcasts. I'm too old for this stuff. But you know what? We gotta talk about it. You know what I mean?
Listen, but the thing is we got to talk about it in a way that, you know, even if we're not calling somebody out individually, the older brothers are hearing it and they like, yeah, I do my old crusty mind thought counterculture attitude away, because we're not, it didn't work. It did not. The results are here, and they've been here for a whole generation. They've been in place for a whole 20 years. I know Muslims that got tattoos with Allah across their forehead. Where did that come from? I know Muslims
you see my smirk. I'm trying to avoid that, man. You're trying to get me in trouble over here. But here's the thing, man. It's like, you know, as a business person, you know, you have a business plan, and you have to go and check your business plan annually to see if you're on course. And so when you're looking at this project that you know, counterculture project that was set off in 1960s and 70s, these leaders, when was the assessment made? When, just like these data points that you brought up, like there's data now, you know, just like when they talk about this COVID thing, is like we need data. So we have plenty of data. And so we need the people like yourself and others to like put together a white paper or something. And I've seen it. I've seen data from different places, you know, talking about the Muslim community and African American Muslim community, and a lot of those numbers support a lot of things that we're talking about. You know, this was a failed project. So the question is, when does the reassessment and the reevaluation happen? You know, behind closed doors, as opposed to like right now, we're like sort of having this out and open, and that's a problem that I have also with the social media world. Is like this kind of backdoor stuff, really.
Yeah, but see, we're not. No. I'll tell you why. Because everything is happening. You know, the first time, I think last time I was in Philadelphia was about 10 years ago. It had been 10, 11 years ago. The first time I heard the term holy hoes that's what they call the Muslim women with the burqa or the full niqab on, and they're getting food stamps and all that kind of stuff, but ain't no man in the house, but it's a new kid all the time. Mm-hmm. So they call them holy hoes. Mm-hmm. So you can't. My issue is that all this stuff is happening in the public, but we won't address it. We won't talk about it. We won't fix the problem. We won't force the Muslim leadership to move out the way so that young brothers such as your son can know and identify the problem, can fix it, and we offer support. We offer money. The problem is most brothers my age don't have money.
Right.
Because they were in this failed experiment that no one said, step on the brake, stop, this ain't working. We got to change something up. We have other examples that are working. And on top of that, let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it 100. You can't support your family off lectures and being an email if you're not the email.
Okay.
You know.
Oh yeah. That's what it comes down to, right?
Let's just keep it a buck. You know, so this isn't saying we don't love you. You can't be my
imam unless you got a job. Unless you got a job, you can't be my imam, or a business or something.
Why would you be the imam of a community more than 5 years? Your time has passed. You ain't trained nobody young yet. You don't have nobody in the community that you trained up that should be given the cook bars and least, and like I said, you become an imam emeritus. Like you totally out the way, but you out the way from the public, you're not connected as much knowledge as I have of the streets and stuff. I ain't connected with the streets no more. Everything that I think was cool and hard and all that kind of stuff, it's clownish now. I mean, dudes is really out here wearing tight shirts. Like that's what they do.
Right.
If I went out in some Michael Jordan shorts, they'd be laughing at me. You know, I mean, they literally out here with their thighs out, wearing tight shorts and stuff. So, but my thing is how do we stop our kids from doing that? Because that's still not Islamic fashion, but you see a bunch of Muslims doing it. The thing is all these old heads, I sound old telling somebody that, because we didn't train up the young brothers to be like, nah, we ain't following it. We ain't wearing no thigh out short.
Right.
We just don't do that as Muslim men.
Right.
So that's the biggest problem, is we're too scared to stand up and be accountable for Allah. Once again, that plausible deniability.
Right.
We feel like if we just sit back and be like, oh, Imam such and such been the Imam for, we become like Christians in church following the pastor.
Right, exactly.
Because we don't want to, because as Muslims, the thing you have to do is to make decisions based on the best knowledge and effort that you can make, and hope Allah has mercy. Pray that Allah has mercy. Ask Allah for guidance and forgiveness, and do what you got to do. And there's certain situations that's more lax than other situations. If we was in synagogue, we wouldn't be having this.
Right.
We wouldn't be having this discussion. But we ain't in synagogue.
Right.
If we was in Saudi, we'd have a whole nother. Do you know homosexuality is one of the biggest problems in Saudi right now?
Yeah, I'm aware.
So my point is, it's issues everywhere. But we look past everyone else's issues and we allow them to dumpster fire our issues. And the difference is their issues are self-created. Saudis call Saudi problems. Pakistanis call Pakistani problems. Afghanis cause Taliban problems. We didn't cause our problems. We just ain't got the gumption, or we're too worried about people liking us to stand up and make better decisions. And until we do that, we gonna be stuck.
But
and you still gonna have.
Do you think that the failure to make better decisions, when we talk about leadership, that's what leadership. Like, how do some of these guys? How did they become? Like, you leaned on that. Back in the 70s, it might have been the toughest guy or the guy with the most game or whatever, but it wasn't the most economically. I mean, maybe your economics came from being in the street. You know what I'm saying? But when we talk about this system here, shouldn't the leadership? That's what I said earlier. I said if you don't have a somewhat economist on your board, this is about knowledge. So if you're rejecting the system and you don't have knowledge of the system, maybe you are very limited in your decision making.
No, because why is failed leadership your leadership? That's my question. There's no Khalifa in America. There's no Khalifa nowhere in the world. So why is failed leadership your leadership? Once again, scared to make a decision and stand up on your own, that you have to answer to Allah for the decisions you make.
If you're defining failed leadership as, bad economics or bad outcomes, where maybe if you define leadership as in some religious sense, some religious context, where you say, well, he's leading the prayer five prayers a day, or he's there, doing these religious ceremonies, and you separated, the qadr of Allah is why we broke. There's a lot of different, like you said, plausible deniability or cognitive dissonance, like how people explain some of the failures in our community. And a lot of it is not related to behaviors and decisions. It's about like we're victims of circumstance. A lot of this stuff in the way people understand it.
Not true. So we are in a circumstance. Okay, we are in a definite circumstance, and we are in a disadvantage. But failure happens not because people are lazy, not because people don't put forth effort. Failure happens because people feel uncomfortable and they have to break their comfort level. And this was kind of like my field of study. This is what I study. And it's the law of comfortability. And you'll often hear me talk about this. The law of comfortability breaks down into a bunch of different things. It starts with the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. Why 20% of the people generate 80% of the wealth. generate 80% of the sales. What is it about them? Where's that failure in the other 80%? In 80% that only generate 20%. And so it comes down to a person's level of comfort and what they're comfortable with. Once they have to break that, then they back away. So for instance, if you just take sales, for instance, or you take, let's say you want to make $100,000 a year, right now you 50. Guess what you're gonna do to get to $100,000? You're gonna bust your ass to get to $100,000. At that point, unless you recognize that you have to break your comfort level, one or two things is gonna happen. One of three things. You're gonna maintain 100,000 and never. You're gonna get 10% above that and then start to relax because you're comfortable at 100. So now your business goes back down. And guess what? You got kind of comfortable. I'm at 95 now, still close to. Now you get 10% below 100. Now you try back to 100. So
hold on, but you see, with that analysis, your response was under my auspices. Like if I want to make this change, I have to do something different. And if you are taking your Islam and it's very ethereal and it's not really about you, like maybe Allah never didn't want, like if I want to increase 20%, maybe I'll make dua for that. You know what I'm saying? And it's not about what I do more. Maybe my phone will start ringing more because Allah answered my prayers. You know what I'm saying? Why wouldn't that be accept? Like, how do you calculate that? Why wouldn't that be an acceptable response to, like, I want to increase? Let me go make some du'as or something.
Trust in Allah, but do what? Tie your camel.
Right.
Go make the money. Go hustle. Whether you get the money depends on it. That's the qadar of Allah. But you still got to put yourself in a position to make the money. You can't just, oh Allah, give me $1 million. It could happen.
Right.
But more than likely, it's not going to happen. What's going to happen is you put yourself in a position to where because part of Islam is always giving dawah. And the best dawah is your actions, not browbeating somebody about Islam. So every time and space that you're in, every time and space that I'm around somebody, guess what they know? They know I'm Muslim. Oh no, I don't drink. I have business meetings every day. Hey, can you meet me at such and such? What happened? They drink. Oh, you want some wine? No, I don't drink. To the point now that people know I don't drink. And so they drink less. They don't get drunk around me. But my point is that when you're in these different spaces, other opportunities pop up. And not just for me, they pop up for other Muslims. So it's not weird for that young Muslim brother to get a new job and he feels compelled to eat pork or drink alcohol because he don't want to be the oddball. They respect it. We don't do enough of that. What we do is we go hide in these broke ass communities with these emails without any vision, or they had a vision, failed vision, and they won't change it. And so we go hide in our little broke communities where we can't even, if you can't offer your sons a job, then you failed. Because what are they going to do? They're going to hit the streets. They're going to pimp women. They're going to do a whole bunch of other stuff in order to live the kind of lifestyle that they want. So and then what ends up happening? A brother can be like, I got 40 racks, come be my second wife. So your daughters are suffering now. So we don't think in terms of what we actually need in this society, in another society somewhere. That may work, but in America, that don't work. Hope and dua alone is not tying your camel. That's not tying your camel. So that's putting your hand.
So in America, okay, that's a point. So let's try to give the people something that they can go away with, some action points. So would you say, what is tying your camel in relation to economics for in America? How would you interpret that economically?
So tying your camel is, I would say, it's twofold. For instance, I had a business. I had a marketing company, digital marketing, all that kind of stuff. I didn't give the company to my son. because I taught my sons how to go out there and get it, make money, all that kind of stuff. And so I made sure that they were in a position that they could generate the revenue and income that they wanted to make. When my daughter graduated college, I gave her my business. I actually begged her because she was wanting to go get a job and all that kind of stuff. And I said, why would you go work for someone when you could do this on your own? And ever since that clicked in her head, she's taken off. But I did that for a reason. Because I'm teaching my daughter, you should be a high income earner. Now, if you choose to marry someone that don't make as much income as you, that's cool. But you should be, your Islamic right is that your husband should take care of you. But you know what you have to do too? You have to choose the right husband to put yourself in a position that if you can't find one here, guess what? I take trips to Tunisia. I take trips to Africa. I take trips to Australia. That's why I'll have my daughter. I don't know if you remember the summer the summer before she graduated, well, that whole semester, she was gone for like 8 months, just traveling the world. She was going to school in Germany, and I was go. Every time you can go somewhere, go. But it's to expand your thought process in your mind. But so we're doing damage control now. We have to fix our daughter's mentality that they can take care of themselves and be financially successful. So I don't want to go be a teacher. I want to be a doctor, computer scientist, something in STEM. This is what I do because I can always teach on the side. If I love teaching, I can always do an after school program. We are fighting an economic war. And because we're losing that, it's affecting everything. I can't give nothing to my kids because I'm a broke stay-at-home mother that feels like the man should pay all my bills. In America, messed up. I know we're behind the 8 ball. See, that's backwards mentality. So that's action item number 1. Make women responsible in anything, any sadaqah that they want to give sadaqah to the house first. The next thing is that teach our sons, you nasty for dealing with these Kafirs. You nasty. You are a hoe.
She belongs to the streets.
Stop being a hoe. That's not what Islam is about. Stop being a hoe. If you're gonna do something, make the woman respectable, marry her, that kind of thing. But stop it. We're not gonna turn a blind eye to whole culture. And that's the whole culture is very big in Black culture. So hold the sons accountable. But at the same time, the father's got to be accountable to give something and build something for my son. I have to be able to give you something other than, be like, well, I brought you up as a Muslim. That's great. Alhamdulillah. But just doing that is causing our sons to veer. And even if they're acting right in front of you in the street. So without being able to hand the job to our sons, guess what we got to do? Lead them down the same path, but it's even more important because my daughter has a right to be in my house until she dies if she wants to. But you ain't gonna be my son and be of sound mind and be in my house as a grown person. Huh? So my daughters are always my responsibility.
Boy, ain't no way, boy.
My daughter getting paid.
Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Guess where she lives?
Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Upstairs. She calls it her condo. You know what I mean? Why would you have bills? All the friends from college stuff jumped out there. They working 2 jobs, struggling to pay bills and stuff. My daughter saves her money and does whatever she wants to do. When she wants to travel, she travels. When she wants to be home, she's home. But my point is to start giving those options, not just throw our kids out there, but push our sons towards opportunities that is high income, so that 80,000 is where they start. So that they come out of whatever trade school, they come out of college and 80,000. I don't know if I can accept that. It's not enough money. That just change that mentality, because the only reason why our sons are doing what they're doing is because they want some sex. That's it. So they making decisions based off of temporary emotion. I want 1 piece of sex. I want 2 pieces of sex. I want 3 pieces. That's why that's a stupid reason to make a decision. That's dumb. What about your kids? What about your grandkids? Don't you want to be able to buy your grandson a car when he turns 16, if he Muslim especially, do you literally want your grandson financing a car, trying to act like he a good Muslim, and he paid cash for a car that he got a 72-month note on? So this is really changing the mentality and stop. Look at our leadership, our older leadership, from the perspective of what you did is not a disrespect. It's not in a disrespectful manner, but what you did, thank you for helping us establish an understanding of Islam. But you have not established community. When the Muslims went to, when they left Mecca and they went to Yathrib, first thing they did, where's the masjid? Next thing they did was, where does Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam want to stay? What did they do after that?
The market.
He found a sister and was like, you over the market. You can't have nothing without an economy. You're just going to starve to death. Or you're going to break down, you're going to be pimping on the side, all that kind of stuff. You can't. That's the third thing. So we have a home, that's marriage. We have masjids, even though they borderline about to close down any moment. Strip mall gets sold, we out of business. We got to establish an economy. So our economy is based on the economy here in the United States. So we got to take advantage of it and generate revenue. We got to be on that right side of that balance sheet. Constantly on the left side, which is liability, debt. So we get abused, we get used like debt does. Once you generate revenue, once you become a cohesive economic force, people listen to you. That's why Jews have special rights that they have, and that's why Black Muslims, we back of the bus. We ain't even back of the bus. We at the bus stop trying to get up change to have enough change to get on the bus.
Wow. Well, got a lot of information out, man. It's always a pleasure. We always get, chopping it up with you, man. I'm sure once I upload this, the people are gonna respond. It's gonna be a lot of buzz.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna give them your phone number and all that. Have them hit you up.
Hey, listen, man. Tell them to call me because the thing that you know about me is I'm very respectful to everyone.
Right.
I give people 3 soonest, but if you insult me 3 times, I promise you get in the business.
Right. That's right.
You
man,
get in the business.
This is very informative. There's so much to listen to, digest in this, and we're gonna wrap it up because we've been out of here for like an hour and 30 minutes.
Okay, let me say this. Action item number 1: get rid of the old email.
Get
rid of them.
Okay.
Get it. Email in every community should be 35 and younger.
Okay.
And if you don't have that, your community's failed and it's about to die anyway. So
I was gonna call for a moratorium on marriages until this podcast, until you watch this, full-fledged moratorium on marriages. Because you don't know what you're doing. It's like, if you don't know what you're doing, let's stop. I know everybody hot in the pants and whatever the issue is, we having conferences and stuff. Let's shut it down. Because I'm listening to what people talking about. They ain't talking about this. So if this is not at the heart of your conversation, then we need to pause, because there's children being born. There's some mistakes that are irreversible. There's some situations irreversible.
Right.
So let's put a pause on that. So
listen, stop falling for the pimp game too. Just because it come in Islamic clothes.
That's right. Clothing.
Stop falling for it.
Inshallah. All right, man. So we're gonna wrap this up.
All right.
And always a pleasure. And we'll definitely be following up with you, because I'm sure there's going to be some feedback from this. And inshallah, we'll continue. And tell the children, what time is it, man? I hear they quiet down back there. So
yeah, they actually waiting on me because their bedtime is 8:30. So
all right, inshallah.
All right, Doc. They in a good mood right now. All right, man.
Thank you, man.
All right.